This week, the day after this video is published, in fact, makes 50 years since Star Trek debuted on television. So to mark that occasion, and because I will take any opportunity to talk about it, here are 5 awesome things about Star Trek. Number 1, it's diverse. From the very beginning, Star Trek has placed its commitment to race, gender, and cultural diversity front and center. For many TV viewers in the 1960s, the bridge of the USS Enterprise was the first place that they ever saw black folks and white folks and Asian folks and men and women all working together, all treating each other as equals. But it went beyond mere representation, because the stories of Star Trek always depicted the diversity of the crew and the unity that they found within that diversity as a strength, not only of the crew of the Enterprise, but of humanity itself. Number 2, it's socially conscious. Star Trek originally aired at the end of one of the most tumultuous decades in American history, when white Captain Kirk and black Lieutenant Uhura shared American television's first interracial kiss in 1968. It was just over a year since the Supreme Court's decision in Loving versus Virginia, which essentially legalized interracial marriage in the U.S., had been handed down. And black Americans were still protesting in the streets and on college campuses, demanding the same basic civil rights that white Americans took for granted. Unfortunately, in that respect, much has still not changed in the United States. But nonetheless, Star Trek took a potentially explosive, divisive issue like racism, and instead of shying away from it, it used its platform on network TV to make a statement against white supremacy, to present a vision of a future where, for humans at least, racial justice and equality were realities. Number 3, it's politically engaged. Some of the most well-remembered episodes of the classic Star Trek series were produced as allegories of current events. For example, the episode A Private Little War is a fairly pointed statement about the Vietnam War, which was ongoing at the time. And the classic episode Balance of Terror, which introduced the Romulans as antagonists, contains several parallels to the Cold War that was ongoing between the United States and the Soviet Union. And Star Trek returned to the Cold War theme 25 years later for the film Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country, which was the final production to feature the entire original cast. So even in its old age, Star Trek was still finding things to say that were relevant to the time. Number 4, it promotes tolerance and understanding. Over and over again, Star Trek has tried to humanize its bad guys, even the ones who aren't, strictly speaking, human. From the Romulans in Balance of Terror, to the Klingons in Star Trek VI, to alien races like the Cardassians and the Ferengi, who didn't show up until the Next Generation era spin-offs. Star Trek has repeatedly sent the message that with enough empathy and patience, there is no enemy that cannot be changed into a friend. And of course, not all conflicts in Star Trek are so peacefully resolved. After all, we're talking about a show that, in its cheesy heart of hearts, is an adventure series. But even Captain Kirk, the most swashbuckling of all Star Trek captains, knows that you should first extend your hand to your enemy before raising it to deliver a crushing karate chop. Number 5, it's optimistic. This is probably my favorite thing about Star Trek in all its iterations. Star Trek is inherently optimistic. It's a science fiction series set in a future that is bright, technologically advanced, inclusive, prosperous. It's not dystopian. It's not cynical. It shows us the dark sides of ourselves, but it also shows us that we don't have to be defined by our dark sides. It says to us, don't worry. Things can be better. The barriers that separate us now need not stand forever. The future can be a wondrous place filled with discovery and adventure, and we can explore it together. And if I had to choose a message to broadcast to the world for 50 years, I think that might be the one. The hardest part is picking only 5. Catch you next time. Hey folks, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that one. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And also please consider helping me to make more videos like this one by supporting this channel through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron. Thanks again for watching, and live long and prosper.